Good morning. I am Chris Steyerwald, and here are your buzz cuts from Fox News First. Off the top, that bear is walking away. That bear is alone. Brett Baer wrote in his Bear Tracks today for your Fox News First about one being the loneliest number for that bear and for Barack Obama, the President of the United States. New Washington Post poll out today says that 63% of Americans don't have confidence in the President to make the right decisions. But he says he's going to be making more decisions. He's got a State of the Union coming up tomorrow, and he's going to emphasize direct executive action and not dealing with nincompoops in Congress who won't let him do what he wants to do. Is that a wise strategy given lower confidence? Can the President be that lonely bear out there? We'll talk about it. Don't blame redistricting. Now, you people may not like it, but this is, in fact, the most important political story, I would say, of the last 6 months. A study done by two left-leaning political scientists tested the assumption that the reason that Congress is the way Congress is and Washington is the way it is in large part because of gerrymandering and constant redistricting to ever more partisan grids in congressional maps. Not so. They randomized and came up with pretty much the same Congress. This is significant for a lot of reasons. We will talk about that more. Number 3, he went there. Paul knocks Bubba for intern sex. Rand Paul pressed, harried a bit by David Gregory on NBC News' Meet the Press about wars on women, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Finally pushed on the question of comments his wife made last year about Bill Clinton and that thing he did with that gal. And Senator from Kentucky hauled off and whacked it. He went right for Bill Clinton and called him a predator, said he predatory and offensive to women. And zing, zing, zing. We'll talk about that. And for those of you with mid to late 90s nostalgia, you'll enjoy that. Number 4, social conservative leader readying Iowa Senate run. So the Republicans were pretty optimistic about their chances to pick up the seat in Iowa being vacated by Senator Tom Harkin. Bob Vanderplaats, who is a big name when it comes to social conservatism in that state, probably one of the most important backers of Rick Santorum leading to his success or near success in Iowa in 2012, says that he is leaning towards and getting ready to perhaps make a Senate bid there. That could complicate things, make things more expensive, and help the case, probably, of Congressman Braley, the Democrat, who hopes to hold that for the blue team. And last, and definitely not least, the law is toothless. A Winnipeg woman surrendered a DNA sample to Canadian authorities after her conviction for a recent unspecified crime. Her genetic markers drew an immediate connection with a cold case. And this is from the Canadian Broadcasting Company. The robbery happened in October 2007 when a woman confronted staff at a convenience store in the 800 block of Arlington Street. She threatened them with a knife and fled with an undisclosed amount of cash. But while running off, she dropped her partial plate of false teeth and left them behind. The teeth were taken by police, who sent them off for a DNA sample. I know. What do you want from me? It's Monday. What do you want from me? Yeah, it's a Canadian denture crime joke, but that's what you get, Internet. But you would have gotten it already if you were a subscriber to Fox News First. Go to foxnewspolitics.com, sign up, they're in. But we're going to do it all right now because it's Power Play.
What we're trying to do here is restore opportunity for all Americans, grow the economy, and create jobs.
But you talk about restoring median household income is down, labor force participation is down, food stamps are up, poverty rate is up. If things are so great, how come they're so lousy?
And that is what it feels like to get smacked down by Chris Wallace when you bring the wrong talking points to Fox News Sunday. And this is Power Play. Hi, Internet. Happy Monday. Welcome back. And let us quickly scamper over to the Ed Henry, senior White House correspondent for this estimable news organization. Brother Henry, good Monday morning to you.
Good to see you. How was your weekend?
Dynamite. Pretty. I sliced my hand up on a can of tomatillos, but other than that, I'm doing okay. It's all in the, it's a dramatic existence that I lead. All right, so I have a question for you. Latest polling indicates that when it comes to trust and confidence in President Obama, Americans have some concerns. But the president says that he's going to increasingly try to go it alone, and that's all the talking points that we heard from Pfeiffer and others on the Sunday shows this weekend was that the president's going to focus on executive action. Is this a good time to try that?
It's all he has left, frankly. It might not be the best strategy, but the president has tried at various times to work with Republicans on the Hill. They've tried to put their ideas up. He hasn't listened to them. They haven't listened to him. You've heard the finger pointing now for several years. And I think the fact that John Podesta was hired foreshadowed all of this, because as counselor around here, he was the Clinton chief of staff. Go back and read your history books, or go back and remember from when you were covering it, depending on where you are out there on the internet. If you were somebody who was around and following politics closely, this is what Bill Clinton did in his final year or two, through impeachment, through his own bruising battles where his poll numbers were down, etc. You referred to it a little bit earlier with Rand Paul, perhaps.
Quite so.
But bottom line is, Bill Clinton couldn't get much done either. And what did he do? The school uniforms and the like, the Rahm Emanuel strategy, the John Podesta strategy, a lot of executive action. And that's what this president is going to do. So when John Podesta came in, he's been somebody who's been saying for a couple of years on the outside, this president should use the cabinet more. He should be taking more executive actions. And so that's coming. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Republicans are going to be very frustrated with this strategy, because here you have a president going up saying, I've got a phone and I have a pen. And we've heard this soundbite before. And look, I've got a phone, I'll call you, I'll talk to you, and you know that the Republican leaders have said on a lot of these issues the president doesn't really reach out to them, doesn't really negotiate with them on the debt ceiling and other issues. So they're going to be angry that he's foreshadowing a lot more unilateral action going around Congress. Obviously, the view inside the White House, and you heard it, as you say, from Dan Pfeiffer, the senior advisor around here, to Chris Wallace and other Sunday show anchors, that basically, look, he's tried to work with Republicans. It's not going anywhere. And so with the clock ticking, this is his last gasp, I suppose, to get some of his agenda enacted, because it's not going to go through the Republican House.
Ed, are you in a position to tell us any advance on what sort of a pocket silk tie combination you're looking at for State of the Union?
You know, I don't usually like to foreshadow that too far in advance.
I know.
If we embargo it, could we embargo it till tomorrow?
Yeah, well, the internet won't tell anybody. Yeah, the internet
No, you
won't
won't tell anyone? You know,
Yeah.
I just got a new suit, and it's steel blue, so it's a little bit lighter than this, almost like a blue gray. And I think if you wear something like kind of like a hot pink or something, it really kind of stands out. So that's all I'm going to say for now. I don't want to.
He's just putting it out there. Okay.
I don't want to show too much leg just yet, so to speak.
Well,
but,
if you showed leg, it would really be something. Then you'd really have
that would be big. And you should tune in to Fox News tomorrow night, because you might get some leg.
I probably will. Ed Henry, we are grateful to you. Thank you very much, my friend.
Good to see you. Thank you.
I wonder if Ed knows. He does know, because he's hip, that Zoolander, one of Zoolander's patented moves was blue steel. All right. I don't know if she has any patented moves, but she is patently excellent as a political correspondent for the Washington Examiner. She is Rebecca Berg. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said the Washington Examiner. I say Washington Examiner.
You'll get it right next time.
I'm trying. I'm working on it. Rebecca Berg is excellent. She is at the eponymous Twitter handle Rebecca Berg. I always like it when it's simple. Rebecca G. Berg. Was Rebecca Berg already taken?
It was taken. I've tried to stage a coup for years, but it hasn't worked.
Posers. All right. So here's a question, and I want to delve in more on this. We've heard this from the president like a bunch.
You have.
This was 2011. This was 2012. This was 2013. And now 2014, to some degree, has always focused on executive action. Now, the promise seems to be that with Podesta in the House and with a new approach, that the president will actually be able to do stuff by executive action.
You're right, first of all, that we have heard this before.
Good start, yes.
It is, it's this episode of deja vu harkening back to 2011 with We Can't Wait, if you recall.
And yet they could.
And yet they could wait, apparently, until 2014. And not much has changed, frankly, since 2011. The composure of Congress is exactly the same. Podesta, while a very important political figure and someone who has worked under these circumstances before, he is not a miracle worker. So I doubt that the president will be able to do anything substantial with these
test my
executive
cynicism?
actions.
Test my cynicism. I posit that the purpose of this is not so much to achieve by executive action, but is to drive Republicans buggy and batty and crazy beyond all possible definition, and to threaten executive action for Republicans who have seen after having seen the power of Congress erode over decades, have seen a president who is particularly dismissive of the role of Congress, that I think that this is designed as much as anything else to make Republicans absolutely flip their wigs and not be engaged in message discipline and get more riled up as the president goes out to do stuff. What do you think?
I might actually disagree with you on that, Chris, because
certainly
I'm free to do that.
Free.
Amazing.
This is a free space.
That's fantastic, because I think that it actually helps Republicans in many ways, because you see the president going out there and saying, well, if Congress won't do anything, I will take leadership and do it myself. But then executive actions are very limiting, and so it's actually, there's not actually much that he can do. So it will be a lot of talk that they can then say he's actually not doing anything.
But the palaver counts for so much, right? The talk counts in midterms. The president's trying to rally his political base.
Sure.
And have them say, see, he is tough and he is standing up to these Tea Party jerks. So that's good for him politically as he continues to try to rally the base, talking, as we talked last week, about voter disenfranchisement and other issues. And certainly it will make Republicans even madder, won't it?
It might. It will. Okay, sure. But, you know, I don't think it'll make them mad necessarily. I think it will give them more talking points and more avenues to, you know, express this outrage to the public from, you know, a messaging campaign standpoint. But Republicans, they understand that they're not in power right now.
Do they?
Maybe some.
Do they?
Okay, so maybe it will exempt Ted Cruz from that group, but most other Republicans understand that they're not in power right now and that there's only so much they can do. And so by creating this congressional gridlock, they've already frustrated Democrats to this amazing extent, forced the president to go to this, to take these executive actions and do what he can on his own. So I think they're actually working pretty effectively and might not.
This is what we call bucking the trend. When you go against cynicism in Washington, you are bucking the trend. Keeping with the trend of excellence, Rebecca Berg, we thank you for making time for us today.
Chris.
Enjoy the rest of your day. You, Internet, are going to enjoy the rest of your day, or at least the next 18 minutes of it, because Penny Lee, Jim Pinkerton are here. We will talk about the time that Bill Clinton did that thing and whether or not that thing that he did is going to have a consequence vis-a-vis the 2016 election. Oh, yeah. And we also, of course, are going to talk about this nerd thing that I want you to understand about the redistricting. It's nerdy, but it's really significant. So we'll bring smart, non-nerdy people in to talk to you about it and help you have a broader picture of it. It'll be good, so stick around.
The media seems to have given President Clinton a pass on this. He took advantage of a girl that was 20 years old and an intern in his office. There is no excuse for that, and that is predatory behavior, and it should be something we shouldn't want to associate with people who would take advantage of a young girl in his office.
And that unnuanced, unsophisticated, uncomplicated response to a question about the time that Bill Clinton carried on with an intern in the White House, that woman, Miss Lewinsky, as he famously said. He was on Meet the Press with David Gregory, and this is power play Rand Paul on Meet the Press. And you're not supposed to say that, or at least people haven't said that for a long time, because the Republicans saw themselves crisped up by a fairly effective, very effective Clinton counterattack about greed, moralizing, this, that, the other thing, sexually obsessed, XYZ. The Republicans fully abandoned that, and it didn't make any appearance at all in 2008 when Hillary Clinton ran. But there is Rand Paul, a formidable contender for the Republican nomination in 2016, talking about that very thing. What about it? Do Bubba's trysts still count? People who know, or will speculate anyway, include Penny Lee. She is a communication strategist. Yes, she is a Democrat. Yes, she is a former senior advisor, Senate Majority Harry Reid. Yes, yes, yes. Her firm is Venn Strategies. Is that still correct?
Yes, that is still correct.
Okay. But she is awesome. So that is the most important thing to remember. Also awesome, Jim Pinkerton, a contributing editor and writer for the American Conservative magazine. He is a Fox News contributor and steady hand for Republicans dating back some period of time. We won't say the exact
No,
number.
I went with Reagan.
You're going with
Reagan.
it. You're in. Okay. All right. Well, this is good. We don't like to talk. The internet, we try to be discreet.
I'm not in the demo, but I'm proud of it.
You know the demo. You've been in the demo. All right, so that's a good point. The demo doesn't remember the thing about Bill Clinton.
Yeah, they were probably not born.
They were not born, or many of them were not. Because remember, it was 1998, and the people in the demo now were the kids that their parents were trying to keep from hearing the news in those days about what he was doing and what he said he did. Penny, is this a fair question for Republicans to explore as Democrats talk about the war on women? Is it okay when Hillary Clinton runs for office for Republicans to say, what about that thing?
I think it's an unbelievable double standard in that you do not find that about the wife's the role of the wife, question about from the man, for a male candidate. Those kinds of questions just aren't even out there. Hillary Clinton has proven herself to be a public servant, an exemplary senator, and she was an extraordinary Secretary of State. Her merits will rest on her own, irregardless of what her husband did or did not do, or what is being alleged of her, or whatever you want, however you want to characterize it. The truth of the matter is that was litigated. That was opinionated. That was taken in. He was impeached over it, I think, to the peril of the Republican Party. He was, they had a court. He was punished. He lost his law license
in the state of Arkansas.
There has been. It has been out there in the public, and to link that back to whether or not Hillary can or cannot hold the office as a presidency.
Wait a minute, Jim Pinkerton. Wait a minute, Jim Pinkerton. What Rand Paul said was it shouldn't be held against Hillary Clinton. He said it should not be held against Hillary Clinton. Though then he did leave an interesting aside. He said it's hard with them to tell the space between because it is all muddied. But basically he said Hillary shouldn't be punished for it, but he did make that linkage. Fair or not fair?
Well, there is a fascinating linkage between the people that have been married for 40 years and they've done everything in politics together, including raised hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars through the Clinton Global Initiative, which the New York Times thought was interesting enough to write a sort of a revealing piece on last spring. But if you leave Hillary out of it, the issue of the war on women, I would say that Bill Clinton had his own kind of war on women, absolutely. And it happened back in the 90s in the White House. And a few data points. First of all, he was the Republicans in the Congress grossly overreached on the impeachment. If they'd gone for a censure back in 1998 instead of impeachment, I think they would have had 350 votes in the House. But they went for impeachment, which is foolish, and history judged them harshly on that, and so did the voters in 1998. But the fact that the Clinton-Gore administration's candidate, Al Gore, in 2000, lost the presidency even when Clinton had a 60% approval rating and the economy was doing well, I think tells you that the voters still held it against the Clinton-Gore people, including, in that case, Gore in the 2000 election. That's the reason why Bush won. So I don't see anything wrong with Rand Paul bringing it up. I agree it doesn't adhere to Hillary, but it does adhere to Bill, and it does adhere to this idea that the Democrats are saints on this issue of gender.
And to be fair to the senator from the Commonwealth, Gregory put it on him. Rand Paul did not go there yesterday.
It was based on what his wife had said in a...
Well, what? I mean, in a Vanity Fair interview.
Put it on him. He was just asking for
Well, no, this wasn't like yesterday his wife said it. This was David Gregory's third approach. He kept trying to fly the plane into... What was he going to say? She's crazy. I don't know my wife. No, he's going to say, yeah, she was right. But then he did take it a step farther.
He doubled down on it. Yeah. I mean, look, with the party that does have its problems and its women's issues right now. I mean, you have Huckabee, who was just out there, again, I don't think any male should be talking about a woman's reproductive rights right now, or ever, for that matter, especially if they're in elected office. So they have an image problem. You have a governor, a former governor of Virginia, who has is taking issues with the government probing into his own life, but has no problem with the government asking me to have a vaginal ultrasound if I was to be pregnant. So
I could have gone all day without that. Let's, Jim.
But what I'm saying is the Republicans are struggling with how they deal and relate to women, and to attack potentially the first woman president, I think is very foolish.
Now, wait a minute. Now wait a
In
minute.
that linking
Now,
him back,
wait a minute.
linking him back,
Now, wait a
linking
minute.
her back to her
Wait a
president's
minute.
actions. I mean, her
Now,
husband's actions.
there is the thing, Jim, as you pointed out, to reiterate your previous point, that not only do you have that, but you had Filner and Weiner, and you have other circumstances of grody behavior by Democrats who, while in the policy space, say that they are for women, but then anyway. But as far as the Clintons go, we didn't really hear much about the whole Clinton past, and not just what Senator Paul referred to as predatory conduct with 20-year-olds, but also all the Arkansas stuff and all of the Rose law firm and the cattle futures and all of that stuff that had so consumed the Republican Party for so long. Has enough time passed that now it can be looked at anew?
I mean, certainly how she made $100,000 on the commodities future thing from, quote, reading the Wall Street Journal, unquote. That was how she said
It's a
she
good
was gonna do it.
newspaper.
Yeah.
It's a good newspaper.
It's a great paper, but most people who read it don't get that successful in the commodities business in such a short period. But look, we can even say, look, decades have gone by, and it's been, as Penny would say, it's been litigated, But again, I think that the real vein of inquiry is twofold. One, the Clinton initiative, which she's been part of all along, and two is her tenure as Secretary of State. I noticed with some interest that she's writing a book, and the Washington Post said that she's getting help from David Brock, the George Soros payroll person and acolyte and general all-around activist. And now David Brock has said in the Post that they're going to do social media, they're doing all the research for her, and they're going to create a whole website to help people sort through how great she was as Secretary of State. Now, how Mrs. Clinton got to be part of that vast Soros empire is an interesting story that requires a lot more, and it's much more interesting to me than whatever Clinton did 20 years ago, let alone what Hillary did 30 years ago.
Can we just let your head shaking speak for itself?
Yeah,
Do you need to be on the record with an additional beyond just that?
I mean, well, the irony is who David Brock was. I mean, David Brock was actually the one that broke Troopergate, who actually broke the Paul Lloyd Jones story.
That's how we got to start.
Which is the irony. But look, I mean, I was like, both sides, and it's not Hillary directed. It is not something that is owned subsidiary of the Clinton world, what David Brock is doing. Similar to both sides, this is politics, and you have politics on both sides. You have committees on both sides doing their own research, doing their own ads. That's what's happening.
Now we have gone far enough afield that I can indulge my nerdness. Do we need to take a break, or can we just take a listen? Oh, sorry, Brooke. All right, let's take a listen to President Obama speaking in former House Speaker Tom Foley's memorial service at the end of October of last year.
It can be tempting to wonder if we still have room for leaders like Tom, whether the environment, the media, the way that districts are drawn.
And that, as it turns out, was not true. The president there citing gerrymandered districts, the redistricting, as one of the reasons that Washington does not work. But did you read the New York Times? And if you didn't read the New York Times, did you read Fox News first? Because it was good. And I really want you to pay attention to this because it's important for the discussion in Washington. We have all gotten lazy and taken the assumption, well, the reason things are is the redistricting and partisanship, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So two liberals went through and redrew. They said, what would the map really look like? And you know what they found out? Democrats can't get elected in the country. That's what they found out, is that in the country, Democrats can't get elected to office, and it's not about the redistricting. I posit, Penny Lee, that this is quite significant because part of the argument that the Republican opposition to the president is illegitimate is that the majority itself is illegitimate, says the president and his supporters, because it was crafted through devious means in state houses through gerrymandering.
I mean, look, there is something to be said, you are seeing the polarization. You are seeing less and less competitive seats because they were able to craft them in such a way that they're much more, 60-40 versus they used to be 51-49. So there is something to be said for the way in which the districts are shaped. And there's something to be said for the differences in what you're seeing, whereas the House is going to be permanently, I think, in the hands, or not permanently, will be strongly aligned in the Republican base for at least until the next redistricting time. I think it's very, very difficult unless we have a huge wave election come through. I think it'll be very difficult. Whereas the Senate will continue to, so they're discongruent. I do think that the way districts are aligned or how they're drawn does have an effect.
But they're not. They did the thing. They did the study, and the study said that when they randomized the districts, they went through and they randomized the generation of districts and said, what do you get? You know what they got? They got the same thing. If you made randomly drawn geographic, basically, Jim, going from, this is what everybody has always said that we need, you go from urban center and out, and you do geographically randomized. They came up with the same Congress. Am I wrong? You are smarter than me.
Well,
am I wrong in concluding?
Am
I wrong in concluding this is a significant thing?
I think that what we saw was the de-gerrymandering of the districts in the 70s and the 80s, really into the 90s, where the Democrats managed to hang on to their majority by gerrymandering districts, and then so that was one issue. The other issue, of course, was that the Southern Democrats became Republicans,
right? And
so you sort of have the same sort of conservative coalition you can look at from going back to the 1930s, and say, okay, that's sort of the anti-liberal vote, which appears to be somewhere a little bit north of 218.
Right.
And so, look, this study will get picked apart every which way, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I mean, look, we shouldn't minimize, however, the diligence of gerrymanderers in both parties,
right,
and their skills.
Right. Yeah, there are no slouches.
If you look at the Maryland congressional districts, for example, I just challenge anybody to Google Maryland CDs, and even with a close eye, trying to see where the districts are. They're so spiderwebby.
It's funny you say that. Blue Goose Blue Goose, who is a Marylander, said pretty sure gerrymandering was invented in Maryland. Actually, it refers to Elbridge Gerry, who was I don't know if he was a congressman, but he was an official in Massachusetts long ago.
I remember a district in Houston. It was they wanted to create a majority Hispanic district, and it literally was congruent by an alleyway.
I used to live in a minority influence district in a state that had a 94% white population. To get a minority influence district, it was as thick as dental floss for half of the city.
I hope Arizona doesn't change their way. Right now, the Republicans in Arizona are asking for it to be given back to their legislature. It should begin a nonpartisan.
But that's about how you get an individual member of Congress. That is how, in Maryland, for example, you can have a district that stretches from wealthy enclaves in suburban Washington, D.C., goes around the corner, follows one interstate, and goes down to collect enough voters in Prince George's County to have a guaranteed Democrat seat. But the point of this is that the composition of Congress would still be substantially the same. And the president's complaint about gerrymandering creating the atmosphere in Washington, the gerrymandering may decide whether it's Donna Edwards or somebody else who represents that district in Maryland, but the point is the composition of Congress would not be substantially different.
I mean, I just think that,
she won't bite, Internet. She won't bite.
I do think that we have seen a coarsening and a changing of the American public based on the more politicization of the districts.
I'm sticking with this. Even if smarter people than me are disputatious, I am sticking with this, and I believe it's significant.
Because you take the New York Times word for it, huh?
That's right. In everything. Guys, we have to run. We thank you so much for your gracious time today. You Internet, always, always, always. Monday, no Charles, sorry. See you tomorrow.